welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by NetCertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. NetCertive talks shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Erin Martin, and this episode is brought to you by NetCertive. Today, our guest is Brooke Janousek, the CMO of Garage Experts. Brooke, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to dive into the conversation. I see you all over LinkedIn and want to pick your brain on 80 million things, so I'm very excited. And just to kick us off, could you give us a little bit of a background on your current role with Garage Experts and just what you do for them there?
Absolutely. Yes. So I have taken a full-time role as the CMO of Garage Experts. I've been here almost 5 months now, which is wild to think about. And I do everything from helping with franchise development marketing. So how do we get leads to our sales team, to sign new franchisees, to helping our franchisees generate leads in their local markets. So really helping them understand the difference between brand marketing and lead generation, really ensuring their success. And then other duties as assigned.
All the hats.
All the hats, yes, all the hats.
Awesome. So what initiatives are you guys looking at right now as you dive into the new year?
Oh my gosh. So a little history. We hired myself and the president of franchising last October and November-ish is when Mike joined. So there's been a lot of change, really good change. And that's a loaded question, but I will just start with the things that are touching marketing. We're onboarding a new CRM. We have introduced Podium, which is a review solicitation platform. So in the middle of onboarding them. Then I have introduced 2 new agencies for franchise development marketing. So I'm onboarding them and then evaluating partners for social media marketing for our franchisees. So just literally yesterday launched the beta for that. So those are the initiatives we're working on right now. My primary focus for this quarter is to get our franchise development marketing up and running so we can start generating more leads than we did last year.
Love it. And yes, that is a lot. And so one thing I always ask people when they start new roles is how you go about the process of just digging in and figuring out that roadmap. Like, it sounds like you guys are on to slaying through the roadmap, but when you first got with the brand, like, where did you start? What did you dig into? Because now you're piecing together that system that you need.
Yes. Honestly, it started during the interview process with me asking very specific questions. I've learned a lot in my career, and number one is, what was the CRM? I needed to know what CRM are the franchisees on so that I knew that I could get the reporting that I needed to be able to coach them to success. So they were in the process, and they let me know during the interview, they were in the process of switching to a new CRM. And so I was grateful for that because I didn't know much about the one they were on previously. So then as soon as I started, really just first thing was getting into reporting. I need to know how many leads each location's generating. I need to know how much revenue they're generating, things like that. So I probably spent the first month meeting all the existing partners, asking for reports, looking at the dashboards, and really diving into, have they been held accountable up until this point, or are they just phoning it in? So they probably, and they've all been great, but they were probably like, oh no, here we go. Someone new is here asking us all these questions. But that was probably the first 30 to 45 days. And then on top of it, that was the end of the year. So then I had to start budgeting for 25 and throw in the mix that we got a new CFO on top of myself and the president. So a really nice, well-rounded C-suite. And so we might be a little bit behind this year just from a budgeting standpoint, but I'm very confident in what we've put together.
Yeah. And that's interesting what you said about digging in the interview process, because I think oftentimes, like, when you think about a new role, you think about the brand and if it aligns with your values and the team and if they align with your values and if that's a good fit, but taking it even one step deeper to looking at what is the tools and tech stack I'm walking into, and do I want to either be a part of a long ass like 5-year plan to rebuild, or can I work with what we have and life will be better for the next few years? That's a big piece of our jobs every day.
Exactly. And honestly, the culture piece I knew would shake itself out because I knew if I progressed through the process, I would meet more people and I would be able to suss out the culture on my own. And I have a pretty good read on culture. So I thought, okay, that will come later, but I need to know, do not pass go, do not collect $200 if you don't have a CRM, if you're not tracking things, I can't be effective in my role. So I have learned through the years to ask those questions early on.
Yeah, I love that. That brings up one thing I've been talking to a lot of marketers about as well, is just data initiatives in general. When we're trying to better harness and use data in this day and age, how do we approach that? There's simple things like getting the right CRM in place, which simple does not mean easy. It's a simple step, but it is the backbone of a lot of data needs. So what else is going on with you guys on the data front related to those initiatives?
Yeah, so I think the CRM migration from the old one to the new one is the biggest initiative, and getting better reporting out of it. In home services, it's very lead driven, especially for our franchisees. So understanding where the leads are coming from, how are they converting to an appointment for that franchisee, and then ultimately what's the sale. But then even being able to dive into, so we're a garage renovation company, so are we selling more flooring products than we are storage products? Like having that type of data we had, but we weren't very, confident in it. So that's like the biggest data initiative. But then the second thing is, from a marketing standpoint, I was really interested in reviews, and not only the reviews of our franchisees, but the reviews of our competitors. And when I first started, I started to do a little bit of my own research, and I thought there's got to be an easier way to get all of this. And so I actually hired a company called PVAI Consulting, that they're an AI consulting company that helped us build an AI agent that is scraping reviews of not only all of my franchisees in the system, but then the franchisee locations of all of our competitors. And then I had very specific asks, and I don't want to give too much away just from a competitive standpoint, but it's scraping the reviews and looking for very specific things, so I know what to educate my franchisees on how to sell against their competitors.
Ooh, that is one of the better AI examples I have heard in the past few months, for sure. I love that.
Yes. Yeah, so it's really cool, and that was something that didn't exist. This company had not done it before, so it was built from scratch. It's pretty cool how it works, and it just goes into a Google spreadsheet, and then I can sort by whatever I want. And there were certain words I was looking for. It's been really good so far.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then also on the data piece then, so for you guys, what's the vision for how you build that out? Is your CRM going to be the place, like the master source of truth, where you have all your analytics as well and can see the insights and closed loop attribution, or are you using any other data warehouses or BI tools? What does that look like?
Yeah, so on the Garage Experts side, we are using a CRM that is built specifically for home services brands, and so they've got all of that in there. So yes, that's going to be our single source of truth. That will be where we see how many leads, how many appointments, how much is sitting in the estimate, how much is closed, how much is in backlog for installation. So we're going to use that as our single source of truth. There's another brand that within our company that I oversee as well as CMO. And on that one, we are using NetSuite, which is not typically a CRM, but it's an ERP. And that's then our single source of truth over there. And we're going to use some Power BI there to help visualize the data that I need to see from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then as you step into this role too, what else was working? Did you see that was working in terms of marketing and lead gen for your network versus the areas that you're like, oh, let's work on that piece? Is there anything that you guys are like, this is working, or other trends that you're seeing work really right now?
Yeah, I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record, but I think it just drives home the point on the importance of the data. And so not having insight into how certain lead sources are performing for the franchisees has really hamstrung us from being able to determine, should you spend your money here, should you not? So I'm relying on past experience to coach them through, here are the lead sources you need to be doing, or utilizing, excuse me. But I think it just goes back to, hey, that wasn't working, and so we're going to fix that. That's the biggest thing. But what is working, one of the things I did when I first started was conduct some consumer research. And I wanted to I did a couple segments. So I did Gen Pop. I went out to just the general homeowners in the United States, and then I surveyed customers who had purchased from us in the last 2 years and installed. And then I surveyed customers who had received an estimate from us but did not install. So I was getting this sold, unsold perspective, then our franchisees, then our employees. And what I was trying to figure out was, is there a gap in the perception of the brand from internal to external? And then also, what are general homeowners wanting? And I'm a big proponent of brand research. And the thing that is working that I have not seen in my 20 plus years of advertising, I have not seen this ever, is the alignment on the research on what is working for this brand. Across all audiences, hands down, everyone said, even those that didn't install our products said it was the quality of our products. And so that to me is such a great insight that I know I can hang my hat on and have the team hang their hats on from a messaging perspective. There's some clever ways that we're going to like really showcase that, but I think that's what was working. And if you have an excellent product, it makes marketing so much easier.
Oh yeah.
If you have a bad product, it's going to be really hard to do any marketing around.
Yeah. And service. Yes.
Exactly. So you can only do so much with a crappy product and then you're stuck. But I think the fact that we have this really outstanding product that purchasers and non-purchasers alike cite, unaided, like this was an unaided question, I know that we've got something good.
That's awesome. I love that. And related to the flip side of communicating a lot of that insight that you find, how'd you go about that with the network then, in terms of the cadence of education, or what's your cadence with communicating with franchisees and educating them right now? Again, it's one thing for the marketing teams to understand everything and we put the pieces together and it locks, but then to transfer that information is always a balance. What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I think we're still working on, I would like to do maybe quarterly webinars with the franchisees, just solely focused on marketing. I communicated all of the research results to them at our conference just a couple weeks ago. I felt like that was a nice big reveal for them. They had not yet met me in person. This was the first time that they were going to get introduced to me. So I thought, let's start with the basics of marketing, like who our target audience is, what they think, what they believe, what they feel. And so I think that was well received. I would have loved to have 5 hours to dive into it with them, but I only had an hour, so I had to pick and choose. But my goal is that I will provide regular updates with them via quarterly webinars.
Yeah, awesome. And I know you have a wealth of experience in your previous lives in the marketing world of things.
Yes.
Fractional CMO work, done a ton of brands. You also have a great personal brand. So I'm just curious on being a fractional CMO and leading you to this role today. What are other things that you think that franchise marketing leaders are missing in terms of trends that you see and advice that you'd offer to our peers?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think two things. I think the AI piece and how it can help drive business outcomes. For example, what I just talked about, the review piece. So this didn't exist. I could have gone and cut and paste all of the reviews and then done my own research, but this was such an easy way to scale and to allow not me, but my team to spend hours on it. So I was freeing up some of their time to work on things that were more important. And figuring out how can AI drive those business outcomes, help us be more efficient. Not take our jobs, but be more efficient.
Yeah.
I think that was a really good example. And I think people are getting smarter and understanding, oh, I didn't think about that. Or you can create an AI agent to go out and search all of the competitors' email subject lines to see what promotions they're offering. That would take no time to set up, and it will take no time other than you're just gonna, I guess the alternative is you subscribe to all your competitors' newsletters and then you get them and then you see that. I would just rather have one AI agent run it on a weekly basis, and then I can start seeing what people are doing.
Yeah.
So I think AI is one. And then you touched on this a little bit, but I still think the value of personal branding is only continuing to become more and more important. And especially in franchise marketing, having your franchise development team have a personal brand on LinkedIn is going to be a real differentiator for you.
Yeah. People want to be a part of a brand and a team that stands for something too.
Exactly.
If we're coworkers and we know that there's that relationship, you also want to establish and show some of those strong strengths and relationships and personality online. And so I love what you're doing. I think I saw a post recently where you said how long you've been doing it. What is it by now? You've been consistent for many years.
Yeah, 3 years, honestly, like almost posting every day. I take Saturdays and some Sundays off, but yeah, 3 years. And it has reaped so many benefits for me, just from podcast appearances to speaking engagements to and I still have my consulting business on the side, but clients coming to me. And then just the people that I've met, I've been able to network. So when I was doing my consulting full time, just people would reach out to me and we would connect and have a virtual coffee. And then that became like a bench of resources. So I had a PR person I could pull on, and I had a copywriter I could pull on. And all of that was just through LinkedIn. It's been really great.
Yeah. And the incredible growth that you have within yourself. Like I know for me, I really resonated with what you said about I've been posting every day for 3 years and I am a better writer now. It's like when you put
100%.
yourself out there and use your voice to help others, you refine your thoughts, your recommendations, your writing. There's a lot of growth that comes with it too.
100%. And that is probably the best byproduct. I've always enjoyed writing, and this really started out as a cathartic exercise for me when I first started. I thought, I'll share my thoughts, and then people started resonating with them. And I never did heavy sales. Like I never was like, hey, this is what I do and hire me. That was never the angle I took. It was more like, what's my take on things that I find interesting? And then also just sharing personal stories, and those are the ones that resonate more than anything else. And I'm actually giving a presentation next week on the art of personal branding, and I talk about this concept of the lucrative lurker, which means there's people that are always looking at your profile. Maybe I don't get the engagement, maybe I don't get the comment, and then all of a sudden they just send me a message. They're like, I've been watching your posts for 2 years. Can I hire you? I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So it is working. Like you're paying attention. Yes. So you're definitely paying attention. You're just not engaging. That's fine.
So what was the driver for you then? Were you taking the initiative, I want to build my brand and let's test out posting on LinkedIn, or you just wanted to share? Like how did that start for you?
Honestly, it was, I wanted to build my brand because I knew as a fractional CMO out on my own that I was responsible for business development.
Yeah.
And so I thought, hey, this is a great way for me to do it. I was a very early adopter of LinkedIn. Like we're talking in my 20s, I got on that platform, and I always posted and things like that. And then at a previous role, I started posting blogs because I knew it was going to help the brand. And then I just was like, oh, that's fun. And so then when I started my own business, I thought this is a great way, A, for me to journal publicly, to be honest. And then B, maybe it'll turn into something from a business perspective.
Yeah. And I do also appreciate your very authentic stories. I think sometimes as leaders, it can be really unnerving to share a personal experience and not share who the brand is or like what company you're a part of when this really hard thing happened, because you don't want any negative stuff to come about from prior coworkers or the company that you were with. But at the end of the day, it's like that's where real life happens with the hard moments, the hard truths that you learn, and the ability to share with others makes them feel less alone. Because no one's talking about this because we all want to pretend like we live in the best company ever with the best job ever and there's no issues, which is not the case.
It's not. And the posts that I think I've had I've had more than two, but two that stick out in my mind that went just completely viral that I did not expect. And the one in particular, I I still get people commenting on it to this day. But I admitted to the fact that I quit 2 jobs in 2 years. And it was an embarrassment for me. And I was so worried what people were going to think. And at the end of the day, it was like, no, I chose myself. These were not good environments for me. And I was very honest in the post about this is what I thought people were going to think of me and all this stuff. And I thought, what the heck, I'm just going to tell people. And not only the comments that exploded, but then the DMs on the side. Thank you so much for sharing the story. This is the same situation I'm in, or I was thinking about quitting and now I'm going to. And so, yeah, people just want authenticity and to know that they're not alone.
Yeah. Yep. And so then for you, how did you approach that plan to personal brand building versus maybe when you started versus what you know now? Because I know that's just a daunting thing. It's like either you just try to post more and you're like attempting to build a brand. Do you have any other playbooks or tips for someone who wanted to get more into it?
Yeah, it's funny. I used to joke that the cobbler's kids have no shoes. So I never had a content strategy. I was just winging it. And honestly, it was my lovely morning routine. I would make my coffee, I would sit down and I would write, or quite honestly, things would pop into my brain when I was walking my dog. And then I would do a voice memo into my phone, and then I would come back, transcribe it, and that was a post. And the more that people started resonating with it and commenting, and the more that I saw growth, I was like, okay, there's something here. I need to put a little structure around it. And it's funny because I'm literally giving you the presentation I'm giving on Monday, but there's 4 things that my pillars are: authenticity. So you want to be authentic and share those personal stories. You want to be consistent. So I do post every day. Now, I'm not saying you have to. I would post at least 3 times a week in order to get that flywheel going. And stick around for engagement. So as soon as you post, make sure that you're there to engage with the posts. LinkedIn will favor that. Because if you post and then ghost, LinkedIn's going to be like, oh, they're not really that interested in engaging, so we're not going to show their post. Mm-hmm. The other thing I like to do is I engage with people that I want in my orbit. So I purposely seek out people and I will comment. And it's not like a 1 or 2 where it's not, oh, cool, or good job, insightful. I literally will write something that then I'm like, okay, now I'm demonstrating my thought leadership to their followers, and that's how I also gained following. And one kind of unique story, so before I got this job, I'm very interested into health and wellness, and so I had made a whole list of all these different brands I wanted to work for. And one of the brands was Malk, which is an almond milk that I drink and only has 4 ingredients. And I found their president on LinkedIn and I really liked his content. So I made it a goal of mine that I was going to engage in all of his posts that I found something resonated with me. And I engaged and he would reply. Maybe 2 months later, he posted a job opening for something that fit my profile very well. And so I sent him a DM and I said, hey, Ryan, I'm very interested in this role. He wrote back like that. He's, hey, totally know who you are. Please send your application here. And he gave me a different email address to send it to. So spoiler alert, I didn't get the job, but that's fine. That just proves you're engaging with people and they see you. And like I was thoughtful and I was demonstrating my thinking in the post. So that's why you don't want to just say, hey, insightful post or 2 thumbs up. You want to do more engagement with those that you want in your orbit.
Yeah, like actually be social on social.
Exactly. What a concept.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's more to the platform and social media engagement than just likes and posting. You can actually interact and have conversations. Like I think even I was just looking at Leanne's Caruso's recent online 50 conversation discussion on subdomain versus subdirectory conversation that they've been having.
Yes.
It's a full on, pros, cons, 50 people contributing. That's awesome. That's like a rich community coming together for a conversation.
Exactly. And that was actually, very specific example is in my presentation for Monday. And that was under the expertise pillar. I'm like, you have an expertise. Like, she is a CMO in the franchising world. She definitely has a perspective on this, but she's posing the question. She demonstrated where she stood, but she wanted to hear where others stood. And it was engaging. She demonstrated her expertise. She showed that she was a thought leader, and people were very interested in the conversation. So that's a perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of times some imposter syndrome can prevent you from wanting to actually post something if you have a thought, or is this the right take or smart enough, or if you don't have to know everything, but you should be a part of a conversation if you care about it. So drop some of the nerves and just go for it. And then every time you do a rev, then you'll get better.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there is a photographer who talks about posting their photos on Instagram. And they're like, if you look back 10 years ago to my first photo post, like it sucked, like it's horrible. So look at them now, they're great. That's because you've got 10 years of failing fast and experimenting and succeeding all mixed into one.
100%. I look back at some of my early posts and I'm like, ugh, I cringe over it, but I'm like, hey, I put myself out there.
Yes.
So look where, it worked.
Yeah, exactly. And then back to AI real quick, because I think you are dead on with, there's a few of these like little tips and tricks or ways to get ahead of the curve in terms of intel. The example you gave was competitive intel. And then there's the customer intel. So there's like some of these core pieces where it seems like a little and easy thing that could massively solidify what you're doing, how you're talking about your brand and its differentiation against other competitors. Like you could be doing some of the foundations so much better with those cool tips and tricks. So is there any other AI tools or things out there that are on your radar, either that you've heard from other marketers that have been working really well?
We all in the marketing space exchange the text message about it, and I know Perplexity AI and ChatGPT are like the big ones, but almost every platform now is incorporating AI somehow, and they're using it as a way to sell themselves. And so even media partners that I'm using, we're using AI to score the leads. And so I think it's faster than anything else that I've ever experienced. I don't want to say it's a commodity yet, but it's almost, if you don't have some sort of AI agent or AI abilities with your platform, you're like completely behind. And so with the example of Podium, they use a lot of AI now. That's the whole thing, is you train these agents with your dictionary, with your things. And so it does seem like you're chatting with a human, which can be scary and in its own way. But I do think almost everything that even HubSpot has some AI components, or they'll say, hey, use AI to write this email or generate an email. So I think it's commonplace now. One of the things I experienced at a previous employer was AI in call centers, and not just hey, we're listening, but what I loved is they trained the AI agent we gave it a dictionary, and then we said, if you hear this word, it's worth this much money. If you hear this word, it's worth this much money. So when the call would come in and they would record it, they would put into the pipeline, hey, that call didn't convert and you just missed $5,000, or you just missed $25,000. So we would know which ones to prioritize to go follow up on. So I thought that was really cool.
That is super cool. And yeah, I think you're right with most platforms have some type of, or partners have some type of AI they're putting to use. So really digging into what that means, because then it's okay. The devil's in the details. What are they selling versus reality?
Exactly.
But there's also so many, I think, just like your little hack of scraping intel on competitors. Because I know that we've done something similar to better understand our own customers, where we just take a bunch of customer conversations, take their transcripts, pop them into Jasper or ChatGPT as takeaway. What are the main pain points? What are the main issues? Getting some of those extracted, just really high level analysis and intel is huge. So you don't always need a really expensive tool to be able to get a little bit smarter about your marketing.
And I use ChatGPT every day. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I use it to, more often than not, I'm trying to get different subject lines for emails. So I'll write an email, and then I'll pop the email into ChatGPT and say, this is the audience that's going to give me 5 subject lines for this, because then I want to A/B test the subject line. So that's what I use it for. I'll write the email, but then I'm like, okay, give me some headline, because there's an art to the headline and subject line, and I just don't possess that art.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or I think often we become too close Like you just have too much information.
Yes.
And so you want to over explain, or you just subconsciously assume that someone might understand XYZ. So you get to writing in a college level. You need to meet your 8th grade level.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
3rd grade sometimes.
Yeah. Looking back on everything, if you could tell your younger 20-year-old self who first started posting on LinkedIn some advice for becoming a marketer and where you are today, like what advice would you give a younger marketer?
Oh gosh. To seek out mentors, to not be afraid to ask for mentorship, or just say, hey, can I take you to coffee? Can I just ask you some questions? But be prepared. Show up with some questions so you're not wasting that person's time. But to really seek that out, anytime someone reaches out to me to say, hey, can I talk to you for 30 minutes, I give them the time, because there was a spot in my life where I was 20 something and I was terrified to ask. So the fact that they're even asking, I'm like, that took guts. And I want to reward them for that bravery and that courage.
Yeah.
So I think the younger folks listening, definitely look for mentors. And then just even in those that are later on in our careers, you still need mentorship. I still have people in my front row that I call all the time to ask for advice, and I've become more, and it's probably an age thing, but I've become more willing to admit I don't know something, and I'm not embarrassed to say I don't know.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like an efficiency thing. I was like, I can sit here in Google and I can try and figure this out, or I could take an online course, which I don't have time to do.
Yeah.
So guess what? I'm going to call so-and-so who I know is the expert, and then just talk to them. And so it's just this maturity and wisdom, I think, that just comes with being in this career for a couple decades.
Yeah, we finally get comfortable with not knowing what we don't know. It's like,
Totally.
duh, especially when you're 20, that should be like, no kidding, but that's the hardest time to reach out and ask for help.
It is, because you're so worried that they're going to think, oh, we shouldn't have hired them then, because they obviously don't know what they're doing. And that's not the truth. It's more of, hey, if you would just admit that you don't know, it's a humble thing. It's demonstrating humility.
Yeah, and one thing someone told me once, which I always love too, speaking of networking on LinkedIn versus not, is they always made the point of you need to network somehow. If you're in person and like local community and your city is epic and you do in-person events and networking and that's your crew and who you reach out to, awesome. But if it's not, you have to have some type of online presence that supplements that, and pick what works with your personality, but you have to be doing it in some way. So I always remind my team too, it's great to take someone out to coffee, but you can do virtual coffees. Find someone on LinkedIn who has the experience in their profile that you want to learn from, and just, try to reach out. I guarantee if you reached out to 10 people, 5 would reply yes. So 2 people, 1 person will take you up on it. You could buy them a virtual coffee, thank them, like hopefully meet them at some in-person event someday, but you can do all of that virtually as well.
100%. I've had virtual coffees with people over in the UK. That's the beauty of LinkedIn, is that your network became global. And with technology, it becomes a lot smaller. And so I've talked with a woman in Paris, and I was on a podcast that's only in Ireland. Just stuff like that. I'm like, this is amazing. And the fact that people are just reaching out and trying to make this world a little bit smaller through the connections is just a wonderful byproduct of LinkedIn, to be honest.
Yeah. And your brand will get better because you're a smarter marketer. The whole rising tides will raise all boats in your personal life and business life and all of that.
I agree.
Awesome. One thing that I do like to ask people is if there was something that you wished I would have asked in our conversation before we head out.
Oh gosh. I don't know. I just think most of my stuff is out there because I do literally put all of my life on LinkedIn. I feel like if you look at my LinkedIn, I have a dog, I like to travel, I have opinions on certain brands and people. But no, you've asked a lot of great questions. So there's nothing I can think of that I wish you would have asked.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate you posting so much because it's one of those things too where you personally are living many fractional CMO lives, and just because you can admit when you don't know something, it's like you're gathering more intel from other people to fill in those gaps, and all of a sudden you've got all this knowledge. And so I appreciate you sharing it with the rest of us because then it makes all of us smarter as well. And so we'll have to, where should we look on LinkedIn if any of the listeners want to follow you?
You can just search Brooke Janousek, which I know is going to be hard to spell. And then there's that little green seedling emoji after my name. That's how you know it's me. Very on brand because I'm all about personal and professional growth. So that little seedling symbolizes grow.
I love it. And I love that you stuck with that because now every time I do see it, I think of you. So it's working.
Perfect. It's working. Consistency. That's the cornerstone of branding, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, and thanks to listeners for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Art of Franchise Marketing.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by NetCertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netcertive.com.